let's move over to the tight end position, our favorite position every week. Got a couple of studs here that are healthy and playing, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, Rob Gronkowski, and this one's somewhat of a softball here, but a lot of folks didn't draft him to be their tight end 1. He was more of a high tight end 2. But he returned this past week against the Giants, scored 13.1 fantasy points. He's got a really good matchup against the Colts. They've allowed 6 touchdowns and the 6th most points per game to tight ends. So unless you have Darren Waller or Mark Andrews or a player of that caliber, Gronkowski should be in your lineup. And then Kyle Pitts, he's been a disappointment. I'm trying to give people encouragement and validation. If Kyle Pitts is watching this, which I'm sure he's not, hey Kyle, the fantasy community is behind you, my friend. Let's just get the job done. And this week he's got the Jaguars. They've allowed 5 touchdowns to tight ends, and 6 have scored at least 10 points against them, right? So Kyle Pitts, who has failed to score more than 9.2 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games, I think he'll wake up this week against Jacksonville. At least let's hope he does, and give us a little Thanksgiving weekend love. I also like Noah Fant this week. And if you're desperate, I mean desperate, Evan Ingram's got a good matchup against the Eagles. Just saying, the matchup is right.
Yeah, you do have to be pretty desperate, but you know what? I'm kind of in that spot in a couple of leagues because I have a lot of players on bye for whatever reason this week. All right, and who are we sitting at the tight end position? Looks like we got a tight end that's kind of in a committee and a tight end that has been pretty studly for us for a few weeks now.
Hey, let's start off with Austin Hooper, who's gotten 12 targets and 21.8 points in his last 2 games. That's pretty good for a tight end, right? But he's still in the tight end committee, and he's playing the Ravens. Now, keep this in mind. I get it. The Ravens on paper look like they're bad against tight ends. They're actually not. They gave up 2 huge games, 1 to Travis Kelce and 1 to Darren Waller. Okay, we can forgive that, right? But look at what they've done against TJ Hawkinson or Mike Gesicki. Did you see what Cole Kmet did last week? Nothing. So I don't like this matchup for Austin Hooper. I don't trust any Browns pass catchers this week. And Tyler Conklin, who's been on and off, right? He had a couple of touchdowns 2 weeks ago. This past week, the numbers weren't there, but he has scored 10-plus points in 3 of his last 4 games. I just don't like the matchup against the Niners. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns and 9.3 points per game to opposing tight ends. And last week, Dan Arnold, who was maybe the hottest tight end in fantasy football this side of Travis Kelce, scored 0 points against that defense. I'm also going to sit Jared Cook and Gerald Everett.